despite all the detours on the road, sex scandals, corruption allegations, even bogus intelligence reports, they were never the issue, nor was it personalities. It was the playing out within Cosatu of a political struggle, not just within Cosatu, but a broader political struggle in society as a whole, basically between labor and capital. You may think I'm exaggerating, but if you look at the evidence, it becomes more and more clear. It's rooted in the move by the ANC government towards, first of all, GEAR, and then the National Development Plan, which were clearly capitalist, free market, an out-and-out capitalist government presiding over the most unequal society in the world. And clearly, there was a move against that, but also a potential move which important people in government and their allies, and it has to be said up front that the main drivers of this process were the South African Communist Party, which is one of the things that makes this debate curious to anyone who's not familiar, because people on both sides of the debate tend to talk the same language. They'll all talk about the National Democratic Revolution and Marxist-Leninism and so on and so forth, but in fact there are huge differences. And that became clear right at the beginning of this dispute. The famous Central Executive Committee, when Fikile Majola said we must deal with the elephant in the room, which I think everybody heard of. Because he was attempting to try to suggest that this was indeed a problem of one individual. Subsequently, he and some of his fellow unionists produced charge sheets. They felt the General Secretary had deviated. And he was able to show quite conclusively that in every single case, the policies they were attacking were actually policies adopted at Cosatu national congresses, in many cases several times over. And clearly, these were what were under attack. And obviously, there's not time to go into all the political issues. Some are very complicated. But there's one which I think will resonate with this audience. And that was an attack on Cosatu's relationship with civil society. Mm-hmm. It's mentioned a lot in the book, but I think some of the authors don't really get to the bottom of it. They think it's sort of a bit of negligence on Cosatu's part that they didn't get involved in these important struggles. The fact is, it was a conscious, deliberate policy to stop working with civil society. And the most shocking example of this came, strangely enough, on the very last day I was working at Cosatu, at the Central Executive Committee, which actually expelled Vavi. When introducing the meeting, the president, Stuma Dlamini, said, mistakes that Cosatu made. One, setting up Corruption Watch, and two, setting up the Chris Hani Institute. Now, to anyone who's familiar with those organizations, it's breathtaking. I mean, Corruption Watch is at the forefront of the fight against what we all recognize to be a huge problem. And why was it a big mistake? Because they turned their attention to some of the trade unions, which I mentioned earlier. And we can't have people doing that. The Chris Hani Institute organized some excellent political discussion groups in Cosatu House. And what was wrong with that? Well, there was a free discussion. People were allowed to say that Cosatu is wrong, or the ANC is wrong, or the SACP is wrong. We can't have that. And since then, there's been a series of statements attacking virtually every civil society organization you could mention. Section 27, equal education, the latest is Workers' World Media Productions. All who are doing, I mean, we may question this or that policy that these are doing, but basically they're trying to improve the lives of South Africans.